Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us for today's presentation. My name is Marissa with Legal Aid of North Carolina's Helpline. Today we have Attorney John Keller presenting for us. If you are unfamiliar with the format of this event, first John is going to review some information about DUA. If afterwards we will have a question and answer session. If at any point you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A box on Zoom or the comment section on Facebook. We'll review all questions throughout and also at the end of the presentation. One thing, please remember that this is a public forum and Legal Aid is not representing you at this time. Please remember to keep your questions as general as possible, as we cannot provide any legal advice specific to your individual situation. With all that being said, I'm going to pass it over to John to get us started.
Great. Thanks a lot, Marissa. My name's John Keller. I'm a staff attorney with Legal Aid of North Carolina. I work out in our Wilson office, and I'm going to talk a little bit this afternoon about unemployment benefits and specifically how unemployment works when we're in the midst of a federally declared disaster related to Helene. For folks with access to the internet, I'd suggest that you take a look at the North Carolina Division of Employment Security's website, NCDES. DES administers the unemployment benefits in North Carolina. And right on the home page, they've got links to all kinds of questions and information about unemployment benefits, both for employees and employers as it relates to the disaster. Just got a few numbers in this morning and I wanted to share with you. So far, since the beginning of October, there have been almost 25,000 claims for unemployment benefits filed related to Helene. The good news and great news is that of the claims that have been decided, it looks like almost 94% of those claims have been approved. Just a little over 6% of those claims have been denied. So that's wonderful. The not so good news is that out of those 25,000 applications, less than half have had decisions made. So over half are still pending review and awaiting a decision. Hopefully those numbers will improve. The number of claims that are being filed each day have gone down significantly since the 1st of October. Shortly after October 1st, there were over almost 2,500 applications filed. During the first 10 days of October, over 1,000 claims per day were being filed. Now, looking at some data over the last 10 days of October, those claims are down to under 500 per day. So clearly, folks have gotten the word, their applications are in, and hopefully DES will begin to be able to address all of those pending applications. A couple things just about getting into the system. You can make an application for unemployment benefits online at the DES website. You can create your own account and then put in your application. You can apply by telephone, and there's a special DES has set up both English and Spanish Helene-related unemployment telephone lines. So that's helped speeding up the processing of calls. If you still have no access to either a phone or a computer, DES has said that folks can go to the career centers, which are those NC Works sites, and use a telephone at the NC Works site to put in an application. The list of career centers, the NC Works sites, are also on the DES website. So I know several were damaged, and not all of the previous NC Work sites are up and running yet. Right now, there are 39 counties plus the eastern band of Cherokee Indians that have been designated as disaster-related counties and therefore can support a claim for unemployment benefits related to Helene. That 39 counties came about in sort of groups, two groups. There's an initial 25 and then quickly another 14 were added. The initial 25 counties have a deadline of December the 2nd to file for benefits, and the additional 14 counties have a deadline of December the 9th to file for benefits. And an important point to keep clear is that the those 39 counties plus the eastern band of Cherokee Indians, the qualification is that you either worked or lived in one of the 39 designated disaster counties. And those counties are listed on the DES website and also on Legal Aid's Disaster Resources homepage. We've got some flyers that lay out all 39 counties. And so obviously folks that live in those counties, it's clear who can apply. But just as an example, Guilford County is not one of the 39 counties. But if your job was in Yadkin County, not an unreasonable drive from the Guilford County area, and you no longer have work because your employer was affected by Hurricane Helene, then even though you live in Guilford, a non-covered county, because your job was in a covered county, you can also apply for unemployment benefits related to Helene. One other general piece of information, a couple weeks ago, Governor Cooper issued an executive order. Part of that order included a $250 supplement to all unemployment claims that are related to Helene. The maximum unemployment amount in North Carolina per week is $350. The $250 supplement for Helene then brings the maximum claim to $600. Sometimes there might have been a little confusion that unemployment was now going to be $600 a week after the governor's order. That's not completely accurate. The maximum claim is $600. But for example, if your unemployment claim is $100 per week, plus the $250, you'll now get $350 for as long as the disaster declaration stays in effect. If your claim was $300 per week, you'll get $550 per week. So that's how the governor's executive order with the $250 bonus or supplement will work. Even though this discussion is described as DUA, Disaster Unemployment Assistance, the first place you really need to start is just with regular unemployment benefits. If you state a claim for unemployment benefits just through the regular North Carolina unemployment benefit system, that's where you're going to draw your initial set of benefits. And out of that 25,000 figure of applications that I mentioned earlier, I think somewhere around 18,000 are being processed as regular unemployment claims. So it's still a significant portion of the applicant pool. A regular unemployment claim then is you're gonna be just an employee who worked for a company, worked for a business, and you are currently out of work because that business is either temporarily or permanently closed. And you can state a claim for unemployment benefits for being out of work just after 1 week of unemployment, of no work available. You don't need to have been out of work for 2 or 3 weeks before you're allowed to file for unemployment. It's simply 1 week. Assuming that the reason that you are not able to work is simply because the business is temporarily or permanently closed, There should not then be any issue of a disqualification. Your claim would be processed based on taking a look at your wage history. That'll determine what your weekly unemployment benefit amount is. And then that's going to be the amount of money you're going to begin receiving, plus the $250 on top of that. My understanding is that, like, the very first or second question on your unemployment application is this claim related to the federal disaster, or is this claim related to the Helene disaster? And that then automatically identifies you as a person who could be eligible for some of the changes, including this $250 payment that go into effect for filing a claim in a disaster designated county. So then let's say you don't fit into the regular unemployment system. So then how does being in a disaster change things for the better when it comes to getting unemployment benefits? And as I just mentioned, the acronym is DUA for Disaster Unemployment Assistance. And first of all, if you're a person who is now drawing a regular unemployment claim based on being out of work due to the disaster, under North Carolina law, your claim can last up to a maximum of 12 weeks. Under the disaster declaration, a disaster unemployment claim, for as long as the disaster declaration stays in effect, that claim can now be extended up to 26 weeks. So that would be 14 additional potential weeks beyond the 12 weeks of your North Carolina benefit. And if, for example, your North Carolina unemployment benefit was $225 per week, if after 12 weeks you're still unemployed, it's still related to the disaster, then the DUA program would kick in and begin paying at $225 per week. And the governor's executive order at this point is still in effect for as long as the disaster is declared. So you will continue to receive the $250 payment on top of your now disaster unemployment assistance payment. So one of the great benefits of the disaster declaration and DUA is that it greatly expands the unemployed folks who can draw unemployment benefits. Ordinarily, you have to be an employee of some business. For DUA and disaster eligibility, it is now self-employed individuals are now covered. So if you're a contractor and you get 1099s for the different jobs that you do, if you're a gig worker, like if you were a DoorDash driver in Asheville or an Uber driver, any type of self-employment, and you cannot work now because of something related to Hurricane Helene, then you can apply for disaster unemployment assistance. Another expanded group of employees are folks or self-employed persons, people who cannot get to their place of employment or cannot perform their job because of transportation issues. And given the substantial number of roads that remain closed and inaccessible, I suspect there are a significant number of people who their job may be available, but they have no way to get there. And so if you are unable to get to your job because of road closures, transportation issues, you can put in an application for unemployment benefits. If you were about to start a job and it was like the day after Hurricane Helene came through the mountains, so that job now is no longer available. If you have documentation proof that you were actually supposed to start on, say, that Tuesday and the hurricane came through the previous Friday through the weekend, you can file a claim for unemployment benefits based on that job that you were going to get. if you've been injured as a result of Hurricane Helene, and that can include being injured trying to escape the flooding, or trying to then do some repairs on your residence, trying to help someone else, and you become injured because of Hurricane Helene, and because of that injury, you cannot perform your own work or the job for some company that you had. That is also a reason you can apply for disaster unemployment assistance. Um, Lastly, if the head of household passed away and you are now the designated head of household breadwinner for the family, um, even if you were not working, because there was this head of household who was earning the income for the family, if you're the sort of next in line head of household breadwinner, you can apply for disaster unemployment assistance. If for any of those categories of folks, the last one I just mentioned, or someone maybe who's been out of the workforce for a while but was just about to start a job, or if you were self-employed but just didn't have a whole lot of money, um, as long as you can demonstrate that you did have a job offer or that you are self-employed, then your the minimum disaster unemployment weekly benefit will be $175. Disaster unemployment is calculated as 1/2 of the maximum North Carolina weekly benefit. And so right now, the maximum weekly North Carolina benefit is $350. And so if you have a minimal self-employment history, um, then but you do qualify now as a self-employed person or a person who's about to get a job, but you're now unemployed because of Helene, DES will establish your weekly benefit at $175. And then you would get the $250 supplement from the governor's executive order. As far as self-employment documentation goes, probably an ideal form of proof that DES will accept and that would really expedite the processing of a claim would be the 2023 earnings based on your 2024 tax return. If you don't have a tax return from last year with your self-employment income, suppose it was self-employment that you began this year, then any types of payment invoices, records of your wages, contracts for any jobs that you're going to do. There's a wide range of documents that DES will look at to determine if you were in fact self-employed, and try to then figure out what your wages would have been. DES will then take that projection record of your wages and funnel it through their normal benefit calculation equations and come up with what your weekly benefit would be. And if there's not enough to establish a claim, then like I said, you'll automatically, just get that 175 minimum DUA weekly benefit amount. Just a couple then smaller points as I'll start wrapping up shortly. The application for unemployment benefits must be off of your primary job. If you had two jobs, and let's say you had a Monday through Friday job, and then you did some waiting tables at a restaurant on a weekend, and that restaurant's now closed, you cannot file for a Helene-related unemployment claim based off the fact that your part-time job is no longer available. All disaster-related claims to be approved have to be based on the fact that they were your primary source of income. The second thing that the governor's order did when he issued it in the middle of October, you need to, whenever you open up a claim, then you're going to be instructed about a weekly certification every Sunday, either over the phone or online. You're certifying that you remain unemployed. And because if it's a disaster related claim, you're going to also certify that, your reason for unemployment due to the disaster still remains in effect. So the the business still is not operating, or it remains inaccessible. There's no transportation to the job site. Um, the the company that had the job offer is still not doing business, so the offer has still never been extended again. Um, the reasons for your unemployment need to still be in effect, and that's what you then certify every week. Ordinarily, you also have to look for work at 3 different places every week while you're unemployed. However, during this disaster declaration period, which we're still currently in the middle of, and that requirement to be searching for work is not in effect. And again, it's only for claims that qualify as Helene related. If someone out here in Wilson is unemployed, just the regular unemployment rules are applying to them. These special DUA rules, the $250 weekly supplement, um, the requirement that you merely have to call in weekly and certify, but you do not have to actually look for 3 separate jobs each week you're calling in. Those apply then only to the disaster counties and to the Helene related claims. Lastly, while you're unemployed, you are required to accept any quote suitable offer of work. And so it may be that as businesses reopen, employers will be calling people back. And certainly if you're being called back to your previous job, then unless you've got, say, a transportation barrier, um, or you're still injured from a Helene related injury, then you will be expected to return to work. And if you don't, then the employer will, I'm sure, notify DES that an offer was extended, it was refused, and that's going to prompt an immediate review of your claim to see whether you're still entitled to unemployment benefits. If you are offered a different job at the company, then yeah, it just comes down to a hard to define standard of what is suitable. And you just need to exercise reasonable discretion. Generally, I'd say you have to have a really good reason why you feel like the job is either dangerous, unsafe, perhaps, it's be the rate of pay is perhaps 1/2 of what you were previously making. Those might be some reasons for believing that this offer is not suitable. But again, you're always just to be aware, you're taking chances anytime that you refuse a job offer. My last point is that it's not too surprising to see the high rate of approved claims so far, and that's because just the way the unemployment system works, the employee does not, in a sense, pay taxes to fund unemployment. It's not like Social Security where like your wages are building up in the Social Security system. The unemployment system is funded by taxes that the employer pays on its payroll. And every time someone draws an unemployment benefit claim from a company, the tax rate for the employer, gets ticked up just a little bit. And so that's sort of the incentive in regular times for an employer to want to contest and perhaps appeal any kind of favorable unemployment decision. That charging does not take place during a disaster. And so it may be that, there could be some claims perhaps that an employer might find a bit questionable, that may not necessarily motivate the employer to want to appeal every single favorably approved claim on behalf of that company's employees. All right, well, Marissa, I think that that covers the substance of what I wanted to say about unemployment benefits during this disaster. If we've got any questions, be glad to try to answer them.
All right, not seeing any questions right now, but for those of you on Zoom, if you do have a question, you can post that in the Q&A box on Zoom, or if you're on Facebook, you can put it in the comment section. Gonna wait just a few moments here to
Sure.
see if anyone has a question, and see if anything comes in. So if you have a question, please go ahead and type that in now.
Oh, and I should say that if anyone is denied an unemployment claim, then that decision will tell you you have a right to file an appeal, and the appeal can be filed online. It can be filed in your individual account portal, and an appeal will generate a hearing. The hearing will be held over the telephone. And Legal Aid of North Carolina, we do represent folks at their unemployment hearing if we think they've got a good argument and that the denial of the benefits was not correct, then we do represent folks in unemployment cases.
All right. As I am not seeing any questions, I'm going to go ahead and thank you all for joining us, with a special thank you to John for presenting for us. If you have any questions about what was discussed, a recording of this presentation will be on our Facebook page. It will be immediately available following the session. You can access the video with or without a Facebook account at www.facebook.com/legalaidnc. Thank you all so much, and I hope everyone has a good rest of their afternoon.
Great. Thanks a lot, Marissa.